Welcome to this week's studio sessions at 2. We are going to be using Posca metallic pens, enamel paint to create on the gel plate. I'm going to start with a pattern that I found on Canva, and I printed it out to the size of my 5x7 gel plate. I'm just going to lay it in place, and it serves as a great guide so that I don't get all kinds of wonky circles. I'm going to be using several colors of Posca pens. They take a little bit of pressure to get the paint flowing, but then they work well. This one actually is an oil-based pen, and I wasn't sure it was going to work, but it did. And so I'm going to just outline all of my circles and my design before I start coloring it in. One of the things about gel plate printing that I enjoy the challenge of is that we think backwards to our traditional collage, meaning that we're always thinking on a gel plate, what is going to be the thing in front? Instead of adding layers on top, we're doing kind of a backward chaining type process. So I just kind of worked with what I thought my color pattern should be. And on this one, just to get the hang of it, I just alternated colors on each one. And I think that it's going to go really well with the printable that I've chosen. So once this is all colored out, I'm going to let it dry completely. I did find a few little areas that I needed to fill in, and it's easy to do as you go along. So this is all dry, and I'm going to use my matte gel medium. This is going to serve as the alternative to an acrylic paint to pull up my print. I'm going to put a generous coat on, smooth that out, and then I'm going to apply this printable that I created and lay that down. I thought the colors would work nicely. So once this is all completely dry, it did take a couple of hours, I'm going to lift that up, and instead of pulling the paper from the gel plate, I'm going to do the opposite and pull the plate from the paper. I don't know if there's anything more satisfying or something that causes you to hold your breath more than pulling your print, but it sure is satisfying, and I love how this turned out. Not sure what I'm going to do with it. Let me know if you have any suggestions. For the next one, I wanted to try to do kind of like a faux stained glass effect. And so I got out some enamel paints and used that same pattern. But for this one, I'm using another metallic oil-based pen, and I thought that this more closely looked like a soldering effect that you would have on stained glass. So I did a little border too, thinking I might make it look like a little window. And again, I just let that dry completely. So I broke out these glass paints that I had. I don't use them very often. And honestly, I don't think I would use them again. I think that I could have achieved the same effect by using a gloss gel medium mixed in my acrylic paint. The look I was going for was something transparent and glass-like, and so I really wasn't sure. On this one, I just took one color at a time because I only have so many brushes to work with, and it just kind of helped me. So once I got the pattern down, the color pattern down, it went fairly quickly. I just did, like I said, just take your time, do one. It's actually pretty enjoyable to do, the process is. And so I'm using the bright yellow here, and then I'm going to use the pink. And then in the end, I ended up adding a third color, or a fifth color. Well, I loved the pattern and the colors that I chose for this. I wasn't loving the brush strokes. And the directions on this enamel glass paint actually say that you should let it dry for at least an hour, hour and a half before you add the second coat. But I found that it dried really quickly. I don't know if it's because of the gel plate or why, but it just really gripped and dried quickly. So that was a plus. But I had to address those brush strokes because they were really, they were starting to drive me a little crazy. So I had these little tiny sponge daubers, and I went ahead and added some more paint to it after I did this orange, and I kind of worked it out like that. And you'll see that in just a minute. But here's where I may have gone a little overboard, but I like the result. I went ahead and added orange to the exposed areas, and I didn't alternate colors or anything. I thought I would just give it a little consistency and just this multicolored pattern. And I do like how it turned out. So here's where I got out these tiny little sponge daubers. I started by using a brush and then adding that second coat of paint. And I thought, man, this is going to take forever. So then eventually, instead of brushing it on, I went ahead and dipped my sponge dauber into the paint and kind of just, I'm doing like a stippling patting motion just to get that second coat in and give it a little bit of like a bubble glass effect. The bubble glass effect really didn't turn out that well, but I still like how this turned out. And so eventually, just for time's sake and my sanity, I ended up just dipping the dauber into the paint and dabbing it on that way. Just like in the first gel print, we're going to add our gel matte medium. And I like to use these little spatulas to put it on first. And then I get out my brayer and get as even a coat as I possibly can. This time, however, I'm going to use a wet strength tissue paper. I'm going to use the smooth side of that paper and put it in as wrinkle-free as I possibly can. And then I have to walk away and test my patience while I wait for it to dry. It did eventually dry, and we are going to pull this, and I'm really excited to see how it turns out. I'm just kind of hoping that it's going to be transparent. I know that the tissue paper will allow this to be transparent when I actually apply this to a project, because when you wet that tissue, it is going to almost disappear, and you're only going to be left with the design that you have applied to the tissue paper. So we're pulling this, and boy, it was sticky, but there it is, super, super pretty. And it's a pretty rainy day, so I wasn't able to get too much of a transparent example, but I hope you enjoyed these and are encouraged to try something new. Happy creating. I'll see you next week.